Hello everyone and welcome to AP Biology with Mr. Jennings. Today I'm coming to you from my kitchen. It's the middle of July in the summer, so what am I doing? Taking time here to make a video for you all, and that is basically to help introduce AP Biology to everyone who's taken this class. Now, when we talk about AP Biology, we need to talk about some basic stuff here. First off, for many people, AP Biology is their first high-level science class. Now, I do know for a fact that many of you all are simultaneously enrolled with AP Chem and AP Physics, but in reality, the situation is most of y'all are taking this for the very first time as your very first real science course. Now, what I mean by that is that AP Biology simulates 2 semesters of college biology. AP Physics 1 just does 1 semester of AP Physics, and AP Chemistry also does the same as AP Biology, and it simulates 2 semesters. Now, this does make the class rigorous, but not impossible. One of the myths about AP Biology is that the class is impossible to do, it's impossibly difficult. If you look up online, everybody's like, oh, this class is so difficult. In reality, if you properly prepare and you know how to do things, which you will after taking the course, you will find that it's not impossible. Now, it is a challenge, but everyone in here is more than capable of rising up to that challenge. I know that. Now, the key to have success in AP Biology is really, and unlike the case for all AP Sciences, is to think like a scientist. Now, that means you not only do you know your content, but also know how to and when to apply it. And that's really the big difference from many students. Most students know their content. If you made it this far in your AP classes, chances are you know your content. The difference is, not very many of y'all know how to apply it, or at least know how to apply it properly. And that's really where the big make or break for most students becomes. Alright, now, when it comes to thinking like a scientist, it's not necessarily the scientific method. I really want to emphasize that. It is not the scientific method. Scientific method is often taught in schools as a form of really rote processes that's 5 to 8 steps. They have a lot of variation between people, but they follow some basic guidelines. It is not that case. If you're actually a scientist like me and various other science teachers and real scientists in the field, you'll find that you really don't follow the scientific method, or at least not how we're teaching it. So instead of focusing on scientific method and these 5 to 8 steps or whatever, College Board, this is the people who basically set up the class and administer the AP exams. Very big, important people. They emphasize these 7 science practices. Now, these 7 science practices are found all throughout the AP Sciences. They're the same. Now, how we do them in each field is a little different. And we're going to talk about them real quick, and we're going to talk about what that means in biology briefly as well. Now, the first science practice is really the basic one. And that is using representations and models. Now, that sounds very simple, and we'll talk more about that, but it is one of the most fundamental ones and something we'll be doing a lot of in class. Second is the use of appropriate mathematics. Now, when it comes to math, we don't think of it that way in biology, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Math is very critical when it comes to biology, and it's really interesting that way. Now, this here is really where we start seeing the scientific method start showing up. You ask and have to engage in scientific questioning. You have to collect appropriate data. You have to analyze data, and you have to use scientific explanations, all the while working with information across multiple domains. Those 4 steps right there, 5, really are the scientific method of the batch, but in reality, these are not a set process. You don't do all these in order. In reality, you can do any of these 5 and really these 7 things at totally different times in totally different combinations. It's not all, we have to have all these things at once. Now, there's going to be sometimes we will see material that uses all 7 science practices. Those are few and far between, though. Now, we'll talk about each of these practices a little bit more. Models. Now, models are representation of thoughts. They are ultimately simplifications. That is the beauty and the downside of models. So models are oversimplified sometimes. Great example of models not in science are maps. The Mercator projection, is one of the most famous maps in the world. You've seen it. It's hanging up in almost every history classroom. It's got all the continents, North America, South America. You got Europe, all the various peninsulas here. Asia, Japan, Koreans. Australia's down here. And you go down to Africa. Well, one of the crazy things about the Mercator projection is that it makes distortions of length. It makes Greenland look almost as big as Africa. In reality, Greenland is much more smaller than Africa here. And that's the thing. The Mercator projector is a simplification in a way that sets up, it's all about true direction, which is great, but at the cost of actual size. And we talk about this in biology. We have models of cells. Most of y'all seen a cell model here. We got a little mitochondria. We have the nucleus with various little DNA and chromatin. We have ribosomes. We have the ERs and all that good stuff. These here are really simplified models. Cells do not look like this. Cells are actually much more complicated, and the models fail to do them justice. But we have to simplify them to properly understand them. Now we'll talk more about models throughout the course, and we will be using models almost every single day. It is that important. Now, using appropriate mathematics. Now this is something I spoke on earlier. Biology and math are highly intertwined on a very deep level. We just don't see it at on the underscore level. On the basic level of biology, you do not really see the math. The most complex math you often see is like, what's the surface area volume ratio of a cube? And it's really basic. You just go, length times width times height. That gives me the volume. And the surface area is just, length times width. And you're like, okay, that's not that bad. Length times width times 6. Because, there's 6 sides. And you're like, oh, that's not too bad. And that's something we do in AP Biology, but it's not all we do. In AP Biology, we do a lot more complex math, mainly statistics. As we'll see in the first few weeks of this course, it's kind of a statistics boot camp. That's a math that we have not really covered in most of our math classes. You really don't start seeing it until the last half of pre-cal. And for the majority of students, pre-cal is something you're not taking until the second semester. And very few are taking statistics as a junior. We've had a couple, but not very many. So you'll see a lot of math, mostly problem stats. There are some basic, very, very basic algebra and some calculus-looking stuff showing up, but it's really not that bad. Now, one thing you must be able to do with this math is justify the selection of a math routine and apply that math routine. So sometimes you may be asked to give reasoning on why you use a certain math formula, because you'll have an open-ended question. You have to know when to apply that knowledge, and it's very difficult for some students. Most of you are used to being told, hey, use Formula 2 here to help explain this problem. In reality, you're looking at a very complex, very rigorous question. It's going to have a bunch of scenarios. You have to pick an equation off a formula sheet, and you may have to use multiple equations, and you may be asked to explain your reasoning. Does that happen very often? Sometimes. So be prepared for that. Another thing all scientists must be able to do, and this is really a big importance, especially in biology, is that you must engage in scientific questioning. Now you have to understand where science is limited. Science does not do philosophy very well. And that also can be said of religion. We're not very good at religion and philosophy. Mainly because those are questions about beliefs and thought processes, and those can often be very difficult to really explain with science. Science is limited by facts. So do not think about we're going to do a lot of that kind of stuff in here. Just know, we really don't like to talk about philosophy and science just because we have a hard time arguing for it. It's just challenging. So what you have to do in scientific questioning is you must be able to pose a question, which is basically ask, refine your question, and ultimately evaluate scientific questions. Multiple FRQs will do all this. Now, this should be not a statement here. As scientists, you must be responsible for collecting data, and that really means knowing what sources of data is useful, and knowing what tools are useful. Knowing what instruments to measure is very important. Early on will help you with that. But as you get further into this class, you'll be asked to design your own experiments, and you have to come up with your own means of data collection. And that is really a very big step as a scientist. Not everything gives you very detailed instructions. Sometimes you have to make your own instructions. Now, once you get that data, you must be able to analyze it, and this is really where the math shows back up. We do a lot of stats here. This is a really big stats area. Analysis of data is how science develops explanations. So not only do you have to have the data, you have to be able to use that data. So you need to be able to analyze data and refine observations and measurements based on the analysis of the data, and evaluate the evidence provided by a data set. So that's a really long way of saying you have to be able to analyze data, do some math with it, understanding what you're actually looking at, using that understanding to help refine what you see in your measurements, make sure they're accurate, and make sure they're based on the data itself. And also you need to be able to evaluate that, understand what does that data actually mean. Does it support your hypothesis? Does it reject your hypothesis? Does it support this thing called a null hypothesis, or does it fail to reject it? So we have these very interesting concepts. Now, scientific explanations are one of the most important concepts in science, and this is really where a lot of students struggle, or at least what I see, because most of y'all are really great students at explaining how certain things work if I give you very, very simple procedures. But in reality, you're going to see some really complex things, and you must be able to explain it. And your explanations must be testable. Now, some explanations that support really broad ranges of ideas become theories, and that helps explain how things work. And now one thing we often do to help explain ourselves is we use this thing called CER, which is Claims, Evidence, and Reasoning. You state a claim, you support your claim with evidence, and you help explain your evidence's importance to your claim by using reasoning, which is your content knowledge. So this often requires stuff like data collection, and it also can be research. It can be argumentation. CER is not just science. It can be used in math, English, your social studies, and your sciences. Alright, so this is a very important tool and something you can use in almost every class. Now, working with information across multiple domains. This is probably the most broad topic when it comes to AP Biology and all the AP Sciences, because this would requires you to do something that is kind of difficult, and that is you have to be able to connect different phenomena and models across this, the space and time scales, and knowing what that means is very difficult for some students. That means you have to understand chemistry, you may have to understand a little bit of physics and biology, but not only that, you have to understand the fields within the biology, especially in this class. Each of our units are called domains. Each of the domains we talk about, and there's currently 8 of them, not counting this 0th domain. When you have all these domains, all 8 of them are intertwined and they're built on each other. What we do in the end of the semester in December is important, just as important as what we do in August, and what we do in April, which is usually when we wrap up the new material, it's just as crucial as what we were doing in August as well. And everything intertwines and builds on each other. That is one of the most challenging things for most students to understand. This is not a learn it up. When we have kids, we think of, when we're students, especially when I was a student, we think of these things like, hey, I just need to learn this information, learn these facts, and I can forget it and learn something else. So we often have to really think about how we learn and how we process information and how we study. And we'll talk more about that in the future. But you have to understand, everything we do in this class is connected to one another, and they all build upon each other. So, just a quick little recap here. when we talk about this course, you need to understand that it's really important that you understand that AP Sciences, and especially AP Biology, is challenging, but not impossible. It is 2 college courses, but you're doing it within the framework of a school, a high school. So you have this beautiful structure and support structure of a secondary school. You do not receive that in most colleges and universities. So you have a nice support network. You have teachers who care for you. You have all these amazing, wonderful things to help you. Now, one of the best things I can tell you to have success in this class is to think like a scientist, and that means you follow the 7 science practices. And we'll be spending the first couple weeks of class talking about the 7 science practices, as well as talking about the basic content that we need to know, like chemistry and all that, so you'll have the best chance for success. When it comes to my class in AP Biology, I want everyone in here to have the same chance of success as everyone else. I want you all to have the best possible experience you can, and I look forward to having you all in class if you're watching this for the first time over the summer, if you check the website, or I'm looking forward to answering any questions you may have if you're watching this at the beginning of the year in August because you waited till the last minute to look up stuff, or you signed up for the class late. Who knows? Well, thank you all, and there'll be more videos to come. Appreciate it. Goodbye.